Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining for this very important conversation. Welcome, come on in. We are so glad to see all of you. Today's conversation will be about tobacco. And it is important. First of all, let me back up and introduce myself. See, the conversation is so exciting. I just want to get right into it. I am Chela Demuir. I am the National Vice President for Flux, and also I am the President of Unique Women's Coalition. I am joined today by my sister and good friend, Queen Victoria, who is also the National President for Flux. Oh, I should let you introduce yourself. I'm sorry. Let me back up. See, I'm so excited. Hold on.
Hi, everyone. My name is Queen Victoria Ortega. And as was mentioned by my sister, the Duchess Chela Demuir, I am the president of Flux. Now I would say, I was going to say national, but now international. So I definitely get the privilege of serving alongside with Chela, but we have a lot of exciting news and a lot of exciting information, so we can't wait to share that. So stay tuned and get to learn about your body, health, and tobacco cessation.
Absolutely. And so it's important for us to have this conversation because it's really, we want to know the effects that tobacco and the products that have tobacco take on our body and our overall health. And so we definitely want to be informed on things that concern us. And cancer is one of the leading causes of death for, people of color. So we have an amazing conversation. We've brought some allies along with us to have that conversation with you. And if you're ready, Queen, are you ready?
I am ready. So before we get started, I want to just give a shout out. We can't do this work alone. This is the work of a coalition, a group of people that think that it's important to talk about tobacco cessation, especially in communities of color and especially in trans communities. So we'll be working with Health Access, Equality California, Unique Women's Coalition, Flux, as well as We Breathe. So this is a community and team effort. You'll be hearing about HRT and how that's impacted by tobacco usage. You'll hear about how it can impact your surgery outcomes, your surgery prep. You'll also hear about what are some tools for tobacco cessation and some information. So make sure to stay to the end of the presentation so you could get those resources and share them with our community. And I just want to give a shout out, especially to our community members that are going to give you the presentation. I wanted to make sure to introduce them. So Shannon Kozlovich is with Equality California. And then we have Marissa London, who is with Equality California as well. And then we have Danny Casenya, who is with We Breathe. So those are going to be your presenters today. And I hope you look forward to it and enjoy it, and you'll be hearing from us more.
Hi, my name's Danny Sasenya, and my pronouns are he, him, his. I am the LGBTQ program manager for We Breathe, the LGBTQ statewide coordinating center in California. As a transgender, masculine, genderqueer individual, I have been told multiple times to quit smoking in order to have a healthy and successful transition. After learning a lot from my mistakes, I knew it was important to share what I learned with you all. So today I'm here with Dr. Shannon Kozlovich from Equality California, who is a trusted friend and collaborator in providing education around queer health.
Thank you so much, Danny. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Like Danny said, I'm Dr. Shannon Kozlovich. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And just to be clear, I'm doctor as in scientist. I am not a medical doctor. My background is in tobacco research, and I currently work at Equality California, bringing the voice of the LGBTQ plus community to institutions of power and supporting evidence-based tobacco control policies. That being said, Danny, please call me Shannon.
Absolutely, I will do so. But thank you so much for joining me today, Shannon. I really do appreciate it. I want to kick off this conversation talking about how does tobacco use impact hormone replacement therapy. So my first question for you is, how does tobacco impact HRT for transmasculine individuals who either wish to start testosterone or who have already started testosterone?
Yeah, that is a great question. Tobacco products themselves are a very complex mix of a lot of different chemicals or compounds or things, whatever you want to call them. And this includes all tobacco products, from cigarettes to pipe tobacco to electronic cigarettes and smokeless tobacco products. And there are really no very specific, there are no scientific studies out there that specifically look into how tobacco and HRT interact specifically. But there are a few conclusions that can be drawn from the cisgendered research that's out there on how these, how tobacco impacts testosterone in the human body. First, tobacco use may impact the way your body uses testosterone, specifically the length of time that testosterone hangs around in the body. And the second and most important thing that we can learn from the research that's out there is that tobacco use may impact the results of your testosterone blood tests, showing either an artificially high or an artificially low value that could impact your prescription dose, thus impacting any side effects.
Right. And unfortunately, I had to learn all of that the hard way, like I mentioned earlier. But how does tobacco impact HRT for our trans feminine siblings?
Yeah, that is actually an excellent question. So there are more studies out there on the impact of testosterone on estrogen or progesterone because of birth control pills. And same thing that we run into with testosterone, all of this research is done in cisgendered women, unfortunately. But the conclusions that are drawn from the interaction between tobacco products and estrogen or progesterone are that taking these two things together increases a person's risk of heart attack and stroke. And due to those increased risks, many doctors are reluctant to prescribe estrogen to tobacco users. In addition to that, the interaction of certain compounds within the tobacco products themselves and the hormone pathways in the body could interfere with your body's ability to achieve that desired testosterone estrogen ratio.
Okay, so knowing that there isn't enough specific data out there, then why are doctors so hesitant to prescribe HRT to smokers? And is there a difference for like e-cigarettes or vaping products?
Honestly, Danny, I have to say, shame on our federal and state research funding institutions for not making this area of study a top funding priority. Because trust me, if there is one thing I know, if you provide the funding, the scientists will show up and do the research. So there really is no excuse for this research not having been done. So to get back to your question specifically, medical doctors are hesitant to prescribe HRT for some very real health concerns that we know from research in the cisgendered population, as well as what we know about what hormones do inside the human body. Anyone taking testosterone on top of everything else just has a general added complication of their blood getting thicker and thicker due to the number of red blood cells that their body is producing with the increased levels of testosterone. Thicker blood means that your heart has to work harder to move the blood through your body. This just puts a lot more pressure on your heart, and so does smoking tobacco or using any kind of tobacco product. And as I mentioned previously, for tobacco users who are taking estrogen, they're at an increased risk of stroke through blood clots, and specifically blood clots in the brain, in veins that lead to stroke, or in the lungs, which are called pulmonary embolism. And so just blood clots in the lungs. So due to these risks, many doctors are reluctant to prescribe HRT to tobacco users. So to get back to the question of whether there's a difference with electronic cigarettes or other tobacco products, I just want to talk about nicotine specifically, which is found in all tobacco products, no matter what kind of tobacco product you're using, whether it's an electronic one, an oral use tobacco product, or a smoked tobacco product. Nicotine itself increases your resting heart rate. This means that a non-smoker's heart will slow down more than a tobacco user's heart while they're sleeping. This lack of restful sleep for your heart leads to an increased risk of heart issues over time. This is similar to how your entire body just gets worn down when you have poor sleep night after night. When your heart is tired, it's less equipped to deal with the added demands that come along with hormone replacement therapy.
Right. Wow. And I know we can just keep talking about this subject for a long time, but I mean, unfortunately, that's all we have for our discussion on HRT. However, Shannon and I will be back shortly to talk to you all about surgeries.
Wow. Wasn't that an amazing conversation? Informative, right? That's our key word today. What did you
Definitely.
think?
It definitely was informative, and I didn't know, especially how tobacco usage could impact my body and like what outcomes could happen. I mean, you always see ads and things around your neighborhood, like especially growing up in the community in Boyle Heights and East LA. You know, as a brown person, smoking is so common, and a lot of us also have
Absolutely.
used it as a form to like just relax and escape.
Yeah.
But it really can have an impact, especially if you're like taking hormones or going into surgery.
Absolutely. I know even in Black culture, we use it and take it so casually, and a lot of times it does come from, the households we're brought up in, our parents or other aunts or uncles may smoke. And so we are born into an environment that people may commonly use tobacco. So this was a great conversation. And I think this is also something we'd like to encourage our audience to talk to your friends and to your colleagues about.
Most definitely, for sure. So don't keep quiet. I mean, talk about it. That's the whole point of us having this conversation, to talk about how it could impact your life as a trans person, but also with your allies and your family, like what tobacco usage can do to our bodies and our families, really.
Absolutely. So don't go anywhere because there's more where that came from.
I am a trans male.
Queer, non-binary,
transgender male,
bisexual,
pansexual.
There are a lot of people who tend to struggle with mental health, and it kind of is underlying issues because they're part of the community. I am still struggling with tobacco use, trying to quit.
I gave up on therapy. Like, I feel like I have to explain my own identity. I know everyone knows that smoking is bad, but I guess there's no like incentive or like no resources to like help people that aren't, that are like trying to quit.
I was a smoker for a long time, going through divorce, having a child, coming out as transgender. You know, that takes a lot of mental health. I had my son and I quit. Nobody thought I was gonna quit.
like when you're in college and you're off your parents' health insurance and they don't really know what to do for you and you don't really know what to do for yourself, it can leave people in like really weird, vulnerable situation. Just the queer community in general, I feel like is more like susceptible and vulnerable to like the tobacco industry, like targeting people that have like alternative identities.
It's a continuous battle to identify what our triggers are. And I do admit I have anxiety more when I'm smoking. So I'm trying to get back to quitting because it's better for the family.
I wish the community wouldn't leave opportunities for minors to get a hold of it, because once you start, you can't kick it. People try and they always go back.
I know great things are going to happen for us. I know that, you know, if we just stick together and we build that community and we just keep doing the hard work of healing and really getting to the root of everything, like, we're going to be okay.
Hi all, Dr. Shannon and I are back with you to talk about how tobacco products affect our surgeries. as I mentioned in the last segment, I had developed complications due to tobacco usage. And even when getting my top surgery, one of my surgeons was like, look, if you don't quit after your surgery and we take off your bandages, your nipple can fall off and end up on the floor looking like a raw piece of pepperoni. We don't want that to happen. And it's like, okay, I need to take this seriously. So now we're going to talk about surgery and really make sure that we fully understand how we can make sure to prevent Nipplegate 2020. So Shannon, what are the negatives of using tobacco before surgery besides loss of nipple?
Yeah, I hear that. So tobacco actually is the one product that negatively impacts every single system in your entire body. And this is true for tobacco use before surgery and during surgical recovery. Continuing to smoke or using tobacco products, including smokeless tobacco and electronic cigarettes, can delay your surgery because your surgeon may not want to continue. Prior to surgery, smoking prior to surgery can complicate things like anesthesia. It also increases your chances of post-surgical scarring, both the tobacco use before surgery and during recovery, and can increase the risk of rejection, similar to what you were talking about with the Nipplegate 2020, and impacts your surgical incision healing.
Okay, but you just mentioned how tobacco can complicate anesthesia. How exactly does that happen?
That is a great question. And much of it involves metabolism, which is specifically what I studied when I was doing tobacco research, was the metabolism of the things that are found in tobacco products. So, those people that you get extremely jealous of who can eat whatever they want, whenever they want, and they stay super thin, and their response is, I just have a high metabolism. Well, your body uses anesthesia drugs or any pharmaceutical drugs through metabolism as well, the same way that it uses food, just through slightly different metabolism pathways in your body. So when you use tobacco products, your body actually makes more of those proteins or the worker bees in your body that metabolize or use pharmaceutical drugs. Therefore, tobacco use prior to surgery can impact the dose of anesthesia required to keep you out during surgery. And as far as the research goes, this usually means that it requires a higher amount of medication, which then leads to a greater risk of developing breathing or heart complications during or directly after surgery.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But kind of going back to Nipplegate, and our body's rejecting our surgical sites, like what other surgical complications could happen? Like, could skin grafts not take to new sites? Is there a possibility of rejection of fillers or even complications with breast augmentation?
Yeah, so Danny, we really want people to be able to keep their nipples, so stop smoking. But the reason that this happens and the issues that are caused by tobacco and post-surgical healing mainly revolve around wound healing and how your body heals any wounds that it has. And surgical incisions are wounds. So in order for a wound to heal, there needs to be adequate blood flow to that area, because your blood is what carries all of the proper things that a wound needs to heal, including oxygen. Nicotine, which is found in all tobacco products, slows down blood flow by causing blood vessels to narrow. So it's really similar to a 4-lane freeway having been reduced to 2 lanes because of construction. And this just makes everything go a whole lot slower. And this decrease in blood flow to those specific areas decreases the oxygen that's reaching the surgical site, including the nipples, which can impede healing and can lead to scarring. In addition, smoking during recovery from surgery increases the chances of infection at that surgical site, which can lead to tissue death or the death of the skin surrounding the incision site, which can definitely lead to very negative impacts for any kind of surgeries.
Okay, so we're understanding better how tobacco can impact surgery, but what would the complications be during surgery if we don't quit smoking or utilizing tobacco at least 2 weeks in advance? And why do surgeons consistently talk to us about quitting using tobacco for at least 2 weeks prior to surgery?
Yeah, I understand that, because what a lot of people tend to hear and talk about is that quitting smoking even a day before surgery can lower your risks of complications. So you want to be sure to talk to your doctor and be very clear and honest about your tobacco use. This is extremely important. So the earlier a person quits, the better, because of that whole body impact that tobacco has. Medical doctors tend to prefer 2 weeks or more before surgery and continued abstinence from tobacco use during surgery. Why 2 weeks? It actually takes that long for the body to get rid of the chemicals that are in in any tobacco products. And it allows time for your lungs and your heart to recover before being placed under general anesthesia.
Wow, thank you so much, Shannon. I mean, again, I know we can talk so much more about this, but I really do appreciate your expertise and your time.
Yes, Danny, it was an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
We don't smoke the shit. We just sell it. We reserve that right for the young, the poor, the black, and the stupid.
Menthol cigarettes are cheaper in black neighborhoods. Big Tobacco targets us because they think we're just easy money. They get cash. We get killed. Big Tobacco only sees our money, not our worth.
Hi all, I'm back and I'm here with another amazing friend and colleague of mine, Marissa London. Marissa, do you mind introducing yourself to our wonderful audience?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Danny. My name is Marissa London. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I work with Shannon at Equality California. I've been working on tobacco community education and engagement in the LGBTQ plus community for about a year and a half now. And now that we've talked a little bit about the biology and chemistry and what's going on in the body, I am going to have a conversation with you, Danny, about what exactly we can do about it, and maybe some tips for how to quit.
Awesome. I'm always excited to chat with Marissa because we have so much fun in our conversations. I don't know how much fun we'll have in this one, but it's always a pleasure to chat with you. But anyways, my first question is that are there any trans-specific resources for my community particularly that can assist in quitting tobacco?
I'm so happy you asked about this. Cessation, which is kind of the official term for quitting, cessation resources are across the board super underused. And as you might guess, it's especially underused in the LGBTQ plus community. It's used at lower rates than even the general public. Unfortunately, there are no online or telephone services that specialize in transgender and gender nonconforming cessation. However, quit lines are training their providers to support queer callers. And so you can call 1-800-QUIT-NOW, and that will go ahead and connect you to your state's quit line. And from there, you can ask to speak with someone who specifically knows how to work with their queer callers. You can also find LGBTQ affirming healthcare providers through the Gay and Lesbian Medical Association website. And all primary care providers should have the skills and knowledge to assist with tobacco cessation. Additionally, LGBTQ spaces, such as a local LGBT center, may also have tobacco quitting support groups that you can reach out to. So I encourage you to talk with your local centers to see what is out there in your area.
Thank you so much for these resources, but I do have some concerns because, I mean, just thinking about myself as a trans person, the main reasons why I smoked was I had severe depression and anxiety with my dysphoria being triggered, as well as encountering discrimination due to my gender identity and everything. So it's really hard for those of us to quit smoking because that's the first thing we reach to, just to kind of settle everything down that we're experiencing. So is there something less harmful my community and I can switch to, such as maybe e-cigarettes or vaping products or smokeless tobacco?
Thank you so much for bringing that up, Danny, because as we know, it's not so simple as just quit tomorrow, problem solved. And it's so much more complicated than that. I'll start by saying there is no tobacco product that is 100% safe or safe at all. However, e-cigarettes or vaping products and smokeless tobacco don't pose all of the same risks as combustible cigarettes. So vaping and smokeless tobacco would help alleviate some of the health concerns that come from coughing and how coughing might open someone's wounds when recovering from surgery. The main concerns for tobacco in general comes from nicotine's impact on healing and anesthesia complications, which would still remain an issue with any kind of nicotine or tobacco consumption. If totally quitting or cessation is not realistic for you, though, studies find that, as Shannon said, even 12 to 24 hours of not smoking or vaping can improve the body's ability to respond well to surgery. So stop as soon as you can or as far in advance as you can, and it will have a positive impact. However, there are also some non-nicotine tobacco cessation medications and treatments out there, but that's something that you would need to talk with your doctor about to see what might work for you and your body. I'm not as informed about things like cannabis, though, and I know, Danny, that you know a little bit more about that. So do you mind sharing some information about how cannabis might impact hormone therapy or surgery?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always happy to talk about cannabis. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole data issue that we don't have the data to know how cannabis affects HRT, but we do know that HRT for menopausal symptoms have no known negative reactions to cannabis. But again, very little information actually exists. So we need to take that with a grain of salt. But now in regards to surgery, it is better than tobacco, but, and it is a huge but, there is still an impact on anesthesia. In the very limited amount of research that has been conducted, it is shown that people who utilize cannabis products prior to surgery do need higher amounts of anesthesia, as well as higher amounts of propofol and fentanyl, both of which are very highly addicted. So it's really important, again, that we are very honest with our medical providers and our use of cannabis. Now, as a trans person and a public health expert, I do believe in harm reduction. If you can safely obtain cannabis products, I highly recommend using edibles or a tincture instead of products that can cause a person to cough, such as joint switchers or swishers, and taking a hit from a bong or a pipe or anything of that nature, because the coughing effect can cause your sutures or wound to open, which then can give you surgical complications, or who knows, maybe your nipple will go flying and ends up across the room on the wall. We don't know. But we just really want to make sure that, again, our wounds do not burst open. In healing, edibles and tinctures are preferred to smoking, but it may slow down the healing. So if a doctor says, like, it'll take about 4 to 6 weeks for your wounds to heal from a regular surgery, just know you could be adding some healing time due to utilizing cannabis products. And again, I mentioned earlier that we have extremely high rates of depression, anxiety, dysphoria, all of these societal stressors that we encounter due to our gender identity. But I am asking all of us to please make a healthier choice so we can ensure a healthy and successful transition. And please remember, if you are going to obtain cannabis products, do it in a safe way where you are not going to be targeted or harmed in a way that's going to negatively impact your life. So with that being said, and that was a lot, you're probably wondering, like, okay, but I have insurance. So will insurance cover my cessation products, such as like nicotine patches, gums, etc.? Marissa, can you provide us with more information about what insurance does cover?
Absolutely. So the Affordable Care Act requires most health insurance plans in the United States to cover some level of cessation services. All Medicare, all Medicaid, and all employer-sponsored plans must have cessation services. And all of them will include at least 90 days of all FDA-approved smoking cessation medications, as well as counseling. And what those medications might be could be nicotine patches, it could be gum, it could be nasal spray. You would have to talk with your insurance company or your healthcare provider to let you know what exactly is being offered. The only insurance that may not include tobacco cessation at all are short-term limited plans, and then insurance plans that existed before 2010 and have not made any changes to their coverage. And that's pretty uncommon at this point. So most insurances would cover some kind of cessation services. And so no matter how you receive your care, I encourage you to ask to find out what free services and what low cost services are available to you, because all of those services are out there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Marissa. It's always an amazing time to hang out with you.
Wow.
Thanks. I'd like to thank Shannon and Marissa again for joining me and having this very important conversation.
Well, this is definitely the most informative information I have received about tobacco in a very long time. Actually, it made so much sense to me in this way, particularly when someone talks to us directly about how it affects us and our hormones. Now, you got me. As soon as you mentioned hormones, my eyes are open and my ears are too. So thank you very much for our allies and our sibling who had an amazing presentation. I totally walk away from this more informed and able to have more conversation with my community members. How about you, Queen? How do you feel?
I mean, I'm just processing. I think that you just summed it up. It's like, it's amazing to hear the information. And again, I just challenge people to like stay on top of the information and make sure to share it and share it with our community. You know, Shannon, Marissa, and Danny, shout out to all of you. You guys did an amazing job. You know, we want to make sure that we continue doing that and get more information and get resources for our community. So where do we go, sis? Where do we go get more information?
Absolutely. You know, thanks for asking that. That's a great question. Well, to learn more about We Breathe or any of our affiliates, more information about tobacco and how you can get involved, please visit our website at californialgbtqhealth.org. I'll say that one more time because it was a mouthful. It's californialgbtqhealth.org.
That will be definitely a website that I'm going to favorite. And I just want to thank everybody for joining us. And I can't wait till we could all get in person again. I miss you, sister.
I miss you too, but it's good seeing you this way. I love it. Thank you, everyone, once again for your participation. We hope that you learned something, and we hope that you could share something that you learned. We're all better together. Take care of yourselves and enjoy the rest of your day.